We are joined by John Young of Cryptome.org, one of the best. It was kind of WikiLeaks before WikiLeaks on issues of government spying, surveillance, illegal surveillance, you name it. And they're really a clearinghouse posting and publishing a lot of this. He pointed out to me in an email that he didn't even break this. They just hosted the documents. Yahoo threatens Cryptome over leaked surveillance document. Yahoo, the internet corporation notorious for helping China implement totalitarian censorship of the web, has instructed its lawyers to go after Cryptome, a site that functions as a repository for information about freedom of speech, cryptography, spying, and surveillance. Michael T. Gershberg of the law firm, and it goes on, sent a DMC takedown order notice to John Young, Cryptome webmaster. On December 3rd, the law firm claims that Cryptome has violated Yahoo's intellectual property rights and copyright by posting Yahoo's compliance guide for law enforcement. Young has refused to remove the document from his website. The takedown order is posted on the Cryptome website. And we've got his comments here pointing out they never registered it as copyrighted, and he's being pretty sarcastic with them. But it's good to have him here with us today. Mr. Young, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Tell us just briefly about Cryptome.org. I mean, a lot of my listeners are big supporters of it. I've been learning a lot for many years from it. But for those that don't know, a snapshot of Cryptome.org, and this is only the latest persecution and visitation that you guys have had over the years. So perhaps give us a little bit of background on that, and then this latest trip into Orwellville.
Great. Good opportunity to speak with you, Alex. We set this site up 13 years ago to publish information that the government didn't want the public to see. That's its only purpose. We've since expanded into commercial stuff that businesses don't want the public to see, but most of it had to do with publishing government documents that they had rather the public not see. So people send us documents that they have access to, or we get them through FOIA, or they show up from unknown sources. So we publish it without editorial remarks in most cases and let the readers decide what they think about it. So it's more like a library than a blog. And so we have about 45,000 documents now on the website that have been collected and put up for public reading. The most recent series we've been putting up are telecom law enforcement compliance guides, in which they are obliged to provide access to telecom records through official legislation established for this purpose. Most of these guides are kept private because the telecoms don't want the public to know that they're selling this information to the government. Christopher Sologian broke this story a week ago on his website. He's a student at Indiana University, and he'd been doing research on this and asking for FOIA information, and he was refused. But he did get copies of letters from Verizon and Sprint objecting to the release of what they call confidential business information, because if the public saw it, they would be very upset with us. Well, lo and behold, a day or two later, someone sent us a copy of Yahoo's lawful compliance guide, so we put it up. And
now they have thankfully verified it's authentic by saying, yes, that's ours. Just like the ClimateGate swindlers, the top UN scientists all colluding in fraud to hide the decline in global temperatures in the last 9 years. They came out and admitted, yeah, those are ours, somebody stole them. So it's always a nice verification.
That's right. And so along with the Yahoos, we've got about 8 or 9 others from telecom companies that have similar policies in place, which they've never disclosed before. And so that's now on our website, and the Yahoo one is the one that's gotten the only response from the owners of these documents, so they claim, and sent us a standard DMCA takedown. We've gotten these DMCA takedowns several times over the years and have tried our best to resist them. So,
there's a lot of fake ones, too. We've noticed most of the ones we've gone through have been fake. And we always challenge it with a federal filing in federal court and have beaten them. But that's if they try to carry the takedown order through. Of course, that's hard to do with all of our different servers we use, the CDN systems we use. But I don't want to get into the architecture of how you resist those. John, specifically with this new case, let's start at the beginning. What do the documents, I've read over some of them, what do they show? The shopping list of, hey, warrants, we don't need no stinking warrants. It's all yours. Just pay us some taxpayer money. We'll give them to you very quickly. Let's break that down. And then now the latest threats by Yahoo and why you believe you don't have to remove it.
Well, Well, nearly all these are the same. Is they have set up policy to comply with the so-called CALEA requirement, which is Communication Assistance for Law Enforcement. It's a law passed back in the late 90s to force telecom companies to comply with requests from law enforcement agencies. So they set up policies to comply with this, but also set up fees for providing the service. It turns out there's nothing controversial about the compliance part. It's the fees that they want to keep quiet, which has never been publicized because they think that's confidential business information. So that's what they're fighting about, is the money they're making off this. And
well, I've had the feds show up here a couple times, and they just say, just give us people's names. And I go, no, go get a subpoena. And they have subpoenaed us twice. But and the feds are like, well, usually people don't make us have a warrant.
Well, one of the things that Chris Slogan found out was that there's an end run that can be made with Internet information. Most of the tight restrictions are on wiretap of telephones. That's the legacy legislation. But for Internet, they can go around by providing information through loopholes in the law, and that's what they've been doing, and that's what people didn't know about it, which Chris revealed. And that's what these documents show. They put up a brave front of showing they're complying, but they're in fact providing information that is not covered in the legislation.
And that's their emails, that's the instant messages, and it's all itemized. You know, you want it, Yahoo's got it.
That's right. And it turns out it's a very lucrative business. That's what was surprising Chris found out, was that how much money they're making off this.
I saw a story last week where Sprint got 8 million law enforcement requests last year alone for GPS location off the cell phones, which is part of the Telecom Act of 1996. By law, October 1st, 2001, all cell phones have to be tracked in real time off the GPS triangulation from the cell towers down to 15 feet. It's really 3 feet, but the law is 15 feet. And they can dial in and listen to what you're doing even when the cell phone's off. So it's just a massive system. And as insiders told me over a decade ago, the phone companies aren't tapped by the NSA. They are the NSA. They have whole floors of their installations where everything goes through it. It's like radio stations aren't run by FEMA. FEMA equipment by law is wired in as the last piece of equipment that the transmission goes into the tower. Since 1996, with the emergency alert system, everything goes through that FEMA control box that's controlled by shortwave, where they can just take over all the transmissions of TV and radio with an audible signal. Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, so run through some more of what's in these documents, and then your eloquent challenging of this.
Well, since our side is about publicizing information about technological spying, which we branched into, anything that deals with use of high technology to spy on people is our main meat. So this fits right into that. And we get documents regularly, as do other sites, about this, because the high technology stuff often is not disclosed about how effective it is, whether it's through browsing or through chat rooms or through various kinds of things that are very popular now, the Facebook sites and things like that. So Google takes a lot of hits for this, but there are dozens of other sites that are doing the same thing, but all of them have to run through the telecom system. So it's the telecoms that have the real control over all this. And so these agencies go directly to the people who run the technology. And so Google, for example, couldn't do what it's doing without these vast technological infrastructure. And so that these agencies go directly to the source of the machines where this is taking place.
And, of course, the specs under federal law of the telecoms are NSA approved and designed. Cybersecurity Act really expands that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. They think that this heavy use of digital communication is a threat to national security. We think that's bombast. It's certainly not true.
They're just getting psychological algorithms to track and manipulate the population and protect their money laundering, drug dealing, as Sybil Edmonds, FBI translator, whistleblower, running Al-Qaeda up until the day of the attacks. She's having to listen to this. Child kidnapping rings, that's come out in mainstream news. Halliburton, DynCorp, just the most criminal organizations the planet's ever seen. Hit teams, just the worst of the worst. But I'm ranting here. You're now challenging this. You're pointing out that they don't have a copyright on this and it's public interest.
That's correct. is that the information is in the public interest to see what the telecoms are doing, which are public-oriented organizations, and they make a big deal about protecting privacy and providing service, and they do not like to talk about selling the service covertly to government agencies, and they're all doing it. By the way, some of them do publish this information, but not all, and so that what they try to keep quiet is the money side of it. That they're doing it is no secret, but it's how much money they're making that is of interest in what they're trying to hide. And
yeah,
so
I wanted to bring...
And so we think that needs to be known.
Absolutely. I wanted to bring that up to you earlier. It's somewhere here in my stack. I was showing the USA Today from 5 years ago. Missouri tracks scofflaws via pizza delivery database, and then it admits nationwide all the big pizza chains, when you call to get a pizza, run your name, your credit card, your location through a criminal database.